All right, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 52. So as usual, here's the standard intro. There is no updates to this as of today. So we will continue with work on the block mining simulation game. So yesterday, I implemented the ability to actually change the active selection of existing blocks. That this here is supposed to be narrow. I actually changed this to, I'm not sure if I changed it, I might have accidentally changed it back to the same symbol, but I guess on my other computer, where I merged it in, it uses a Unicode symbol that I guess that computer has. It's like Unicode, I don't know, Unicode 2014 or something. But I guess on this computer, it's got a older version of Ubuntu, so it's not supported. So that's why you see this. So I'll maybe find a different arrow symbol or something. I can actually let me. I can run the game with. Let's see. We can run it with the terminal flags. Maybe it's 6. All right, here's what it looks like in the pure ASCII version. So it still has some functionality. Christopher says, hello, hello. How's it going? Yoshikage says, hello, hello world. So anyway, that's a rough depiction of what it would look like if it just some kind of arrow. I'm getting close to having basically everything I wanted developed for the next release of this game. Last night I did a bit of like I guess you can call it refactoring or just deleting of code that was not necessary. So I had a whole bunch of extra code in here to detect differences, to check like change blocks and stuff like that. And that was very haphazard code with lots of bugs in it. And I had that originally because the game was actually it was completely unplayable if you just completely redraw the entire screen every time. So I had to add all this extra code, but then later when I did the complete overhaul of with all that, the past 60 days of refactoring the frames and stuff, that made it smart enough so that it had like a built-in difference calculation, and now a lot of this fancy code was not that fancy change detecting in the map area is not necessary, because it gets handled automatically with the more generic system. the next thing I want to do is massively improve this. There's probably even bugs laying in here. And this will also make it a bit easier to implement the next thing I want, which is the ability to detect what block is below the current block. So that'll be necessary for when rendering the map area. I can actually just put a different color for the background when the map area, that location actually has a block underneath. So the code for that will be soon we shall reveal ourselves to the Jedi. Soon we will have our revenge. All right, excellent. World to world. Hello, Robert. How's it going, Galactic Past? there's a galactic past, does not mean there's a galactic future. Hope so. Darth Elder. Where are you going today? Today I implemented infinitive grid shader. Helps me visualize my world. Space access. Excellent. Would it matter if consciousness was an illusion? Like a recursion of sensory perception? Would it matter? That's a very deep philosophical question. If it did matter, whom would it matter to? Our world has become full of thin-skinned individuals. That's true. There's also some other thick-skinned. It's also developed some thick-skinned individuals as well. Linux gaming has come quite far. Although in my experience, a lot of people still hesitate to use Linux. I've been trying to convince my colleague. Today I helped people pack for moving. And when I went and crawled in an attic to run electrical, they did some demo work. Then I hacked an air conditioner, control board, and now I'm here. That's a very productive day. Only game he plays is Rocket League. Works pretty much out of the box. Yeah, I think gaming support for Linux adoption is pretty huge. And with how predatory and user hostile Windows is becoming, it makes more and more sense. Also, I purchased a Mexican breakfast calzone, also known as a breakfast burrito. Excellent. A calzone has a crust spread like a pizza, not a tortilla. Can you talk about the basics of Linux boot, BIOS system, etc.? Honestly, I'm not super familiar with the early boot sequence of Linux. I would imagine that it's I think the exact answer depends on a lot, because there's so many different technologies and stuff. I guess it depends on where you want to start. So if you want to start learning, you could think about the old I don't know what you call them, the old IBM. If you Google search for IBM boot sector, there's a specific byte that has like 0x, if you have like 0x55 in a certain byte on the hard drive. So like after BIOS, I guess the CPU will do whatever's configured in the BIOS to be the first boot device. It'll look for that, and then if it sees that there's a partition, a bootable partition, then from there it'll try and load that. Now, I think on modern Linux, most likely the first thing you boot is actually not the operating system. It's going to be some kind of like shim, like a grub. Will then it acts as like it's almost like its own mini operating system, and from there you can that's what allows you to boot and access much larger hard drives. Because in the old days, see, what was the limit? There's some kind of limit. If you just use IBM format boot sectors, there's a limit to how large of a drive you can see. It's like maybe a terabyte or two or something. I can't remember the numbers. It's been a while since I looked at this, but yeah, grub basically allows you to have like a different format of boot partition, and there's like kind of just multiple levels you can escalate in depending on how many kind of like older formats of things you want to skip. And then once you get into like the Linux boot process, there was someone who actually wrote like a blog series that they published on GitHub, and they went through like the low level details of the Linux boot process. And there's like, it's like a 16-part series. And there's so much detail to it. And it depends on hardware, and it depends on if you're on like AMD or Intel, and then you got to set up the virtual. You have to set up virtual memory and page tables, and that's different depending on the architecture. Depends how many cores you have. People put up shit for Windows, but refused to read a single page README for Linux. Yeah, I can kind of understand though. A lot of the READMEs are like, they're not necessarily helpful. Like you have to read them and understand them. They're not just like, people want like a Reddit post that just says like, click this button, do this thing. That's the answer. But like, I mean, reading man pages or info pages is not super instructive. EN exam tomorrow, where we will be piping data into a text file and sorting it, compressing it. The data will be random boot up info. I guess if you look in like varlog kern.log, I think that log file has that's where a lot of the early you can find logs of the early boot data. But if you're piping in a text file and sorting it and compressing it, I'm not sure why you'd necessarily sort it. You don't sort a log file, but I guess if you want to compress it, that could make sense. Sorting a log file, but then you mess up the order. T is my favorite Linux command. I use it whenever I pipe program logs into a file. Lets me see the content as the code runs in the console while capturing for grep. What constitutes a bootloader? Actually, I'm not 100% sure. It's possible that I misused the term bootloader, but I guess in some ways you could, like, philosophically, you could maybe call like all of them bootloaders. Like in a long time ago when the computers were simple, the CPU would just jump to an address, execute an instruction, and then you'd have the minimum to start like loading instructions from the hard disk. But in modern computers, there's like everything is like a shim bootloader. So even you have like basic old BIOS, and then UEFI, which I'm not super familiar with. From what I understand, modern UEFI is like complicated enough to be its own like operating system, which is not great because now there's like vulnerabilities in UEFI, and then you can, once you go through UEFI can hand control over to the rest, like the higher level of the system, which would be, I guess, grub, which would probably, I'm not sure how exactly UEFI would hand it off, but it'd probably do the same like IBM format boot sector, where it checks like, I can't remember, there's a certain, it's like you have to check for like, it's a magic pattern like 0x55AA or something at location like 100 or something in the very first boot sector, and if that pattern is there, then that means that partition is bootable. So then the BIOS just starts loading instructions from there. And a million years ago, those instructions would be the first instructions of your operating system, but now in modern computers, those are like instructions, something else, like probably grub. UEFI is sort of standard, not exactly a physical thing. Yeah, originally I thought UEFI was like replacing BIOS, but I think, well, I've noticed in a lot of systems, they seem to have both. There's like, you can select one or the other, but I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure of the distinction if UEFI is necessarily a complete replacement for BIOS, if that's how it's intended to be, or maybe it runs on top of BIOS. When was the last time you used locate? Do you have any tips for searching with locate? I don't think locate is one of those commands I don't use often. I forget what it's even used for. Was Carl Sagan right when he said there is no such thing as a dumb question? Wait, that's a question. No such thing as a dumb question. I don't know. This is a deep philosophical question. I don't have the answer right now. Unified extensible firmware interface. I think it's more true to say that good teachers would never let people know the questions seem poorly formed. Yeah, I think if that's basically true. If you have a good teacher, they won't like chew you out or try to make you feel bad for like not formatting and question right. But I guess from the pupil side, I think there are some like lazy questions. If you don't, if you should know better and you kind of format your question at a time that just is wasting the other person's time, then that's kind of disrespectful to your teacher. But if you don't know any better, then I think any half-decent teacher will give you some slack. Should locate the man page for locate. Yeah, I forget. It's something to do with man pages or documentation, isn't it? My experienced teachers who shoot you for asking questions are usually bad teachers. Yeah, I find like if you do ask, like if they are quick to like, you know, criticize your knowledge and stuff, it's usually because they themselves are like don't know how to teach the course, so they feel like insecure about it. So they're like, oh man, I gotta do damage control. I gotta like put this student in their place so they don't ask questions that I don't know the answer to. My hands-on exam includes change permissions, ACL file management, and zip compression. Neat. All right, let's do some circular buffer work. You know, and I was thinking about just doing this as a standalone file, but I should probably make this part of a test. Can you make two files and compare the byte size of two files? Yes. I'll do that in a sec. My monitor's messing up. Can you make two files and compare the byte size of the two files? Okay, so there's no files here. If I do touch A, that just creates an empty file. If I do ls-l, there's the size of the file. If I type like, that's the contents of the file, nothing. And I do that, that'll go into the file A. I can make that a more obvious way, a.txt. So here's our one file, ls-l, that shows that 17 bytes is the size of the file. If I do echo some other text, put that into b.text. Here's b.txt, which is 40 bytes, and this a.txt is 17. Oh yeah. Oh, I think it's doing it's showing in an I think that's showing the like used on disk because it's rounding up. You can also use the stat command. So that one's a bit more explicit. So it types it right out, size 40. Yeah, I think it's it's showing the like size used on disk as opposed to probably because it's for a small file it rounds it up, which is not the actual. It's like amount consumed in the file system. Okay, -b shows the actual bytes. Yeah, so that's those are some of the commands you can use to look at the size of files. The du command, the stat command, and the ls command. Should I get a floppy drive to my PC? Sure, whatever floats your boat. Should I put wood paneling on my car? You could. It would probably look good. 1/4-inch plywood. That's pretty stylish. Yeah, the stat command is pretty verbose. Also, you can use a format string too. So you could do oh, that's not what I expected. Size of each, size of each block. Total size in bytes is S. Name. So there's your custom formatted way. And work everyone puts %v and forces go to do reflection to print strings. I wish there was a command to convert octal to RWX. What's a Zig programmer called? I'm not sure. I can't speculate on that. Screenshotted. Yeah, I hope that helps you on your exam. Like Rust users or Rustations. It seems like a kind of ridiculous thing to give a name. Like, imagine calling C programmers or C++, giving like some kind of cutesy name to people who program C. That's seems kind of bizarre. That whole like naming them Rustations. It's one more thing that kind of makes Rust seem like a cult. Rust users call C users C Niles. See, that's like it's a weird. It's like a thing that kids would think of. But has there ever been a thing that, like, what do C programmers call themselves? Okay. C programmers call themselves programmers? Yeah. Because they're the only real programmers. That's what I thought. LP1 says, hi, how's it going? I'm a gopher, and I can't wait for the day that Robert inevitably tries Go. Maybe. I think if I was going to learn another like desktop language, it might be Go. Go without a GC would be cool. More excited for the calzone, honestly. Yeah, I'm gonna prioritize. I'm gonna prioritize getting to the next release of this game, and then I don't know what I do all day. I somehow manage to just spend every day working on either the accounting stuff or merging the changes from this every day, and then I find some bugs and spend too many hours trying to fix them. But the calzone review, yeah, I'll once I finish the development on this, I'll do some more interesting stuff. Maybe also I'll go through some of my embedded components and make some content with that. Are you doing contract work right now, Robert? No. Actually, I'm going through my accounting right now, and going through my invoices. I realized that the last invoice that I got paid for contract work was almost exactly 1 year ago. So, and I haven't reached out to him again, but there's just been no additional work coming. And based on how like the stuff I've seen with AI and also with the economy changing, I kind of I am leaning more towards the idea that contract is probably well, I don't know. He may come back to me for some other stuff, but then again, I also like as of a year ago, like inflation's been going crazy. I mean, it's a meme to complain about it, but a couple of years ago, my accounting, years ago, I was paying way too much for accounting. So then I found a small accounting firm, and I was with like a big four accounting firm, and they charged like $2,000 to get my taxes done, my business taxes. And then I found like a small, and they weren't responsive. So I found a small independent firm, and they charged me $750, which was good because I could actually get to talk to someone. And then they almost immediately got acquired by another big accounting firm. And so every year their fee has gone up like $400. So I think it's back up to like $2,000 or something. So I've been my plan had been with the contract work was wait until the economy recovers a bit and then increase my rates when there's like a big when the money's flowing and there's demand for stuff. But then that just never happened. And around the time I was thinking about raising the rates, that was when he said there's no more contract work for a while, for the foreseeable future. And honestly, I kind of wonder. I think his business model itself was not super stable, so he might be completely pivoting into other business too. We really should start a commune where we write software from documentation to books without the internet. So it is artisanal in a vibe-coded world. Yeah, maybe there could be a market for that. Put some art in there or something. Have like signatures, custom signatures. Use a laser etching thing to etch the code in stone. Seems like crime is the only way to survive. I don't partake. That's what it seems like with the economy. Yeah, I mean that's a cynical take, but more and more of like there's so many. I mean, the worst thing is like some people say, the lesson that people learn is that being a good person doesn't pay, so you have to become like a bad person. But then the other problem is like, even if you do crime, or like you kind of break the rules, or you're dishonest, like what I see, like in in a lot of my videos when I talk about just nonsense consulting work, the lesson people seem to want to learn is like, oh, you have to be dishonest and unethical. That's how you get ahead. But a lot of the people that I know who are dishonest and unethical, they also failed. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you're honest or dishonest, like no matter what you do, you have to work like all the time to get ahead. And the only people who are getting like really, really ahead do seem to be disproportionately doing things that they're not supposed to. And it's mostly in government. Would you consider going back to working for a company? No, that's the more I do this, the more that's I think I'm too much unplugged from that. Also, I think I used to think that doing what I'm doing and doing like side projects and independent work would make me more qualified, but I think it all actually makes me less qualified, because I'm more likely to talk back to my employer, and I think having like a social media following is also kind of a liability for a company, because if I don't like the company, I can make a video and I could be like, this employer's stupid, don't work for them, and employers don't like that. I only have 25 million side gigs. I'd rather be broke. A broke saint than a gilded sphincter. You got a New Brunswick accent? It's because I'm from New Brunswick. It's just a cynical take. There are plenty of ways to survive earning honestly. Yeah, I mean, you can survive, but if you want to thrive, that's becoming increasingly difficult. And there are also like, there are increasing number of ways where just like, even if you do the things you're supposed to, it's success is not guaranteed anymore by following the rules. But even not following the rules is also not it's a specific example. Like some people might say, like there's tons of people trying to do cryptocurrency rug pulls, like influencer grifter courses. Like there's a long list of things that are not that are like unethical, but then they also don't make money. And that's not a good path to go down, because then if you like burn your reputation doing stuff, like there's tons of people who ruined their reputation to make like $10,000 on a cryptocurrency rug pull. And I mean, is that worth your reputation for 10 grand? I mean, that's going to pay your rent for like 2 months in San Francisco. And then what are you going to do? That stupid monitor keeps turning off. Not sure if it's the cable connection or the monitor itself. Oh, I'm currently at work writing Google Apps script. Gas indeed. Google Apps script. You could work for government. Government IG. I'm not sure what IG stands for in that context. Yeah, it seems like I mean, actually, like empirically, if you look at the jobs, where the jobs are, the private sector is being like totally eliminated, and basically all jobs are becoming government. But then again, the government is increasing way more rapidly than the private sector. So if we don't fix that, then the economy is going to collapse, or we're all going to become a communist. Play a YouTube video on mute on the monitor. It's the I'm using the monitor right now. It's it's not because of idle activity. It's the monitor that I'm reading off right now. It's got a technical issue and keeps shutting off. I think the cable's not connected right, or the the pin's wearing off. All right, circular buffer. Let's get circular. Robert, if you had to relearn multithreading, how would you do it? I would say learning about multithreading. You have to write some multi-threaded code, and also go through the process of debugging deadlocks. I would say I did a course specifically on concurrency. I did a few courses that involved a lot of concurrency. Write some code. Write a bunch of code that involves multiple threads and debug it. I would say that the key thing that is difficult is not necessarily multi-threading, it's synchronization. So it's if you have two different threads that run and don't really interact much, that's not really a difficult thing to do. But if you have two threads that need to be in the right place at the right time, that's the really challenging thing. And within the context of concurrency, there's actually there's two primitive operations that you need that are fundamental for implementing multi-threading or any kind of thread synchronization. And using those, you can build basically all the other primitives. So there's the test and set instruction, and compare and swap. And if you have a system that it must implement those atomically. So meaning doing those is an atomic operation in the CPU as an instruction, and it cannot be preempted in between there. As long as you have one of those two operations, those fundamental operations in the CPU, it is possible to implement all the other concurrency controls. And if you don't have one of those, then you cannot implement safe multithreading. So you could Google those, test and set, and compare and swap, and then you can learn. If you have one of those, you can implement mutexes, semaphores, and I guess all the other kinds of things. You could also look into learn about coroutines. Those are something that don't necessarily exist in every language, but it's an interesting. If you do a course in concurrency, you might learn about coroutines. I use the go keyword in Go recklessly, writing a prime sieve. Learned about fan out, fan in. The go keyword. I'm not sure what that does in Go. Multithreading is not hard to learn, in the same sense as C isn't hard to learn, but actually using multithreading is hard, just like C. You would recommend New Brunswick for vacation, or one of the other Atlantic provinces? I guess it depends what you're looking for in a vacation. If New Brunswick, if you go to like Saint Martin's, or I think it's called Alma at the Bay of Fundy, those are like nice, day vacation places. Just go get a lobster and sit by the ocean. It's just like a nice pleasant place to sit and eat some seafood. The tides are also kind of a unique phenomena in the Bay of Fundy. It's like the tides go like way out. It's like about a mile or so that they come in and out. That's kind of unique. Saint Martin's is kind of near there. It's an interesting place to be. I guess if you want a more like a kind of exotic place, no one goes. I've never been to these places, but like Newfoundland, I've never been to Newfoundland, and like a kind of northern Newfoundland, there's like some very like rocky areas that are very sparsely populated and stuff, and I wouldn't mind visiting those places. Glad you mentioned coroutines. Coroutines is super underrated. It would be useful to just get another idea of like execution of programs. The other thing about multi-threading to learn. So if you implement an operating system, so if you build your own microkernel, and I would say probably one thing that would help you is if you look into, if you just Google for like how does preemptive context switching happen? How does preemptive context switching work? And learn about stack swapping, because that will help you understand what is actually happening when your program gets preempted. So that'll help you understand why something like test and set or compare and swap has to be atomic. King of the Hell says, yo. The Go keyboard spawns very lightweight 4 kilobyte. Green thread like thing that can communicate with channels. Another primitive in Go. Interesting. My favorite topic in multithreading is lockless data sharing. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different methods you can use for as like optimistic locking is something you can use for distributed systems, which doesn't involve locking, but it can. The disadvantage with optimistic locking is that it can suffer from starvation. So you could potentially try to run your operation, then the operation fails, and then you just retry, and you keep retrying over and over again. And that can be fine in some circumstances, but in some situations, if your program just tries, if you have like two things that are mutually causing each other to fail, then they can just spin forever, and then your system basically then you end up with what you would term as a live lock, where your system, you might think, oh, the system's not making progress, it must be deadlocked, and then you look at it, and it's constantly executing, but it never makes progress, and it's just like acquiring and releasing locks, and that can be if the application's complicated, that can be very difficult to debug or difficult to detect. My RTOS class taught me about preemptive and cooperative scheduling. Yeah, operating system class was one of my favorites. What profession gets the least lip from others? CEO, I guess. What happened to all the hype around Raft consensus? I'm not familiar with that hype. Cryptic Zev says, "Yo, bro, can you help me?" Maybe if it's not too much work. A mortician. Oh, that's a joke. I guess you won't have to argue with your clients, but then you might have to argue with your manager. Are you a freelancer? I guess historically you could have called me a freelancer, but recently I'm not pursuing any kind of independent client work. Do you have any knowledge on how to unlock the iCloud lock? I don't use any Apple products. I guess that's probably one of your own. You're trying to unlock some of your own stuff. I would say just Google that, and then anything that's online is more advanced than anything I know. I don't know anything about Apple products and services. using password. Yeah, that's probably the only way. And if it's an Apple product, you want to bypass it. I think there are like 3-letter government agencies that can probably bypass it. Can I remove iCloud lock from iPhone, iOS for free? I would imagine there's quite a bit of work required to bypass. So there's probably a lot of work put into making that secure. So if you want to bypass it, you need like probably you need to either find a novel 0-day or use government tools. Yeah, don't use any Apple products. When you get this idea of world domination, recently I figured it might as well. I doubt you can. If you couldn't ask, could hire you. Dude, can you help me with that? I did my best, but I failed you. I'm sorry. How do you plan on attempting world domination once you have the funds? So the first plan will be, first step will be to build a deep water port up in the on an uninhabited island in the high Arctic of Canada, and then we'll start a new country up there, and then we'll write a bunch of software, make a bunch of money. We'll get a private equity fund to invest, and then we'll use the money from the private equity fund to just buy countries. We'll restructure the assets, then declare bankruptcy on some of the companies, and then we'll make a bunch of money on the bankruptcy, and then we'll use that money to just buy more countries, and just keep restructuring assets with the help of private equity, declare bankruptcy over and over again, and then voila, world domination. Probably reset the device using iCloud software. Yeah, I mean, and if I would say if there's any hope of bypassing it, it would be like within the context of like Apple approved systems. And you can probably find someone. There's tons of people out there who will like claim to hack Facebook accounts or hack this or that account, but most of them are probably just people are going to send you malware or something. Need to do a Maven. Feel free to provide funds by clicking the button with the $sign. Yeah, if anyone could kindly send me a super chat for $12 billion, that would really help out with the world domination plans. Robert should start adding Discord invite. Oh yeah, I should. That's I thought about that today. It's every day I wake up, I've got like a list of stuff. I've got like 5 things to do, and I get through. I only get through like 3 of them. Easier for me to do it than explain it. Sign up without iCloud. Legally, of course, but with the right price. Are you implying that you do this stuff for money? Because if you are, that's one of the red flags that I'd put on the list of things that make me think I should maybe ban you. Who's ready to PS? Some stand-up status update tomorrow. Fortunately, I don't have to tolerate stand-ups anymore. You have Instagram? Yeah, I gotta. Tomorrow I'll do it if I remember. It's in his description. I'm pretty sure it's not. It's not there right now. All right, that compiled. Can someone link the Discord in the chat? Freelancing seems impossible. Lots of terminal games out there. Yeah, you've got tough competition in the terminal game business. Even the ID gets censored. Interesting. I do see the... I think that's the ID, isn't it? it looks like it shows up on my screen. You want to practice link aggregation? Nope. Not many people have the guts to pull off something like this when you know that most of the people will ignore and call you stupid. I guess something in your life triggered all this. Want to know the story? I have my, if you want most of my life story, you can watch my How to Become a 37-Year-Old Broke Loser video. Generic array creation. That stupid monitor keeps shutting off. Okay, didn't know you uploaded video on this. Yeah, it's if you sort by most viewed on my channel, it's got like 1 million views or so. I put it on live chat, so I don't know if it's if you can send the link. I don't remember the server ID, but you should see so for like my Discord, I just have a link to like the other main one that Bradley maintains. Got deleted. Is it voice only? The Discord? There's some people posting text stuff there. In Brad's server, I think I have a post in general that I made to mine. It's basically just I have some like an overview of the rules and stuff. Sam finally made it. Congrats. Robert, did you see our new rules inspired by our world domination? No, that's in the Brad server. Feels like a past round of interviews or something. Yep, it's a filtering process. The link has expired? Oh, the one that I posted in the Discord? Huh, I'll have to go back and check that, I guess. I didn't even know it expired. That's weird. Default link is only active for 7 days. Oh, okay. I don't really use Discord much. There's mocks for making it permanent. Oh, okay. Matthew Barnes. Yo. Yo, Jasuk Kira's in here. Not sure who that is. Is that it? Yeah, I'll wait for more info. I suggest disable invites for everyone and only post one invite link in the chat that doesn't expire. Only post one link in the chat. Makes it easier to control. Yeah, that might make sense. I guess if yeah, if it's posting it in the chat is probably because if it's in my profile, then everyone will follow it. Bad people. So you can revoke that one link at any time. Yeah, I guess yeah, I guess at minimum I'll have to go back and make that one permanent, or click that checkbox. Got some stuff to do. See you later. Let me see. I feel a super chat rumbling at my fingers. Give it 5 more days. Actually, I noticed that my views on one of my older videos, my how to make a CPU video, had been trending down, but it was today was up. It was like way over like 1,000 views per hour for a little while. So maybe my theory is right. Is that if you don't super chat, then YouTube will just make a video. Well, it'll just find the money. But if YouTube can find other people to super chat, then that means you don't have to. You can have a break. saw a few new people today in live chat. It's the YouTube algorithm at play. Everybody slap that like button. We got 17 likes so far. YouTube is a menace. Gave Jeff Gerling a strike on a video that goes over self-hosting videos. YouTube can't allow competition. I mean, now that ChatGPT, now that large language models are so good, I honestly think it would be so practical right now for YouTube to just automatically immediately transcribe and understand everything I'm saying in every video, and then just filter and take every paragraph and just throw that into a large language model and be like, does this statement does this go against the spirit of YouTube, or does this qualitatively hurt our bottom line? And then that could be just some automatic ban mechanism. I really think that 1080p 4K streaming are overrated. Great audio makes anything forgivable. They're already doing that, but results in a lot of false positives. Yeah, that's the issue. We should make a video hosting platform which only allows 360p. You could, but then YouTube will ban you if you talk about it. I spend way too much on YouTube for them to want to ban me. Easy, $40 a month. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on YouTube. It's I actually just when they started doing the pushing ads on, or breaking forcing people to pay for YouTube Premium, I was like, you know what, I'll just instead of getting ads, I'll just pay for it because I use it so much. 4K is overrated. Probably costs YouTube a lot too. Yeah, 4K is I started filming in 4K and stuff, but honestly, the amount of data, the raw video files, are just massive, and the amount of extra to produce backups of videos and stuff, it's an order of magnitude almost more more money and time. Not quite an order. Like it's almost literally half an order of magnitude. Premium worth every penny. Yeah, watching ads is just... Use ad blockers. I stopped. I had one, but then when YouTube started making ad blockers not work, I was like, whatever. I'll just pay for it. You'd be surprised people like you can never talk to a human. Yeah, that's true. Honestly, I'm impressed by the quality of our internet there. At 1080 it still says your bitrate might not be the best. I guess for my content, I don't necessarily need the highest resolution. Recently emailed the representative and got a response. I don't think it will ever work with Google. Sometimes you can tell the stream hasn't frozen until he blinks. Yeah, I'm in thinking mode. Any sufficiently big companies indistinguishable from government? Yeah, basically. Samsung is a government in South Korea. Yeah, I think that's not completely wrong. I was going to stream on YouTube, but you need 50 subs. It's an achievable goal. Carl, how do I pronounce that? Carl Yule? Thinking what? I'm thinking about how to implement my multi-dimensional circular buffer. I was thinking about making it generic, but then I was like, then I realized to implement this, once I refactor it to be multi-dimensional, this is going to have to be, I'm going to have to make like another class for this, like multi-dimensional circular buffer level, and then use like recursion to initialize it and access things. But that's more complicated. That's going to be more slow, which might defeat the purpose. So maybe I should just make it static, 3-dimensional, which would be faster. How to draw a circle. Don't make it generic if it doesn't have to be. Yeah, I think I might just make it speedy circular buffer. We'll do some uploads first. Yeah, I think if you if you do want to try out YouTube, if you just output make one video a day for a while about something, then you'll get probably like a couple of people in your live stream. If you don't have many videos, you'll probably only get like 0 or 1 viewers at first. And then it takes a long time for the YouTube algorithm to figure out what your channel is about. Have you thought of live streaming on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously? Oh yeah, I have. That's on my to-do list. I forgot about it because I need to look into. I would need to multi-stream. There's multi-streaming software that exists, but I just have not taken any time to research it. There's so many things to research. Like I need to look at. People keep telling me to use AI tools. I need to look into those. I got to do my taxes. How I Became Dangerous Part 2 coming. I would like to. It probably won't be called Part 2, but I'd like to do more on that theme. Want to make videos showing people how to do hard repairs. Yeah, YouTube is the place exactly for that content. If you're doing some kind of repairs on something that's like a common search item, then it could really pop off. I think you're further over to monastic dry. What do you think of different architecture you've seen in the real world? I'm not quite sure why. What you mean by that, Stevie? Dry. So, that's like coding methodology. I can't remember what that stands for. I'm not really sure what you mean by the question. I'm curious about the revenue. By the way, YouTube and Twitch would be an interesting study. Yeah, I think Twitch would make, like if I decided that I am going to commit to streaming consistently, I think Twitch would make sense because the subs on there make sense. I also have like no audience on Twitch, so I think probably I would get like almost no views on Twitch at first. And you kind of have to over time convince people to sub to you. But then if I decide to stop streaming, then it's kind of pointless to waste time like getting a subscriber base. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to within the next I don't know. I have this pattern of streaming every day for the last little while. And now that I've started this pattern, I can't stop. So we'll see. It also depends on time availability and like how much revenue things generate. And I think I'm still just in like the data collection phase. Triangles don't repeat yourself. How I Became Dangerous seems like the intro to your show. Could be like Dexter. Maybe don't kill people. Yeah, I probably won't do that. Yeah, the video, how I Became Dangerous was, that took quite a bit of work, a better time to make that video. I would like to make more like that, but I have like 100 ideas, but not enough time to execute on them. Tries don't repeat yourself. Yeah, I guess I don't have any commentary on that, on different architectures I've seen in the real world. A lot of the code I've worked on has just been like garbage prototypes that I've been hired to refactor, and then I don't even get, I'll like refactor it enough to fix some of the bugs and like untangle the rat's nest, and then they're like, okay, it works. That's enough. And I'm like, wait, but you should fix all the bugs and issues and stuff. And then they're like, nah, it's good enough. Want to teach people a way to make money? Fix laptops mainly. Just fix the charging circuit on a laptop. Yeah, that's the Lewis Rossman approach. YouTube is definitely the platform for it. And if you're fixing something unique, then there's you can kind of own a small niche. I'm less likely to implement something as generic, even if I see a different version of it being necessary in the future. I think usually what I'll do is my usual approach is like implement the specific thing. So I was thinking about implementing this as like a regular standard circular buffer, like one-dimensional, and then make it two-dimensional, and then make it three-dimensional. But I may, yeah, I think I may actually go with that. I guess I probably can't start this with three circular buffer. Robert, you're very inspiring to me. Hope your game dominates the world. Thank you for the kind words. That's a reasonable take. Too much dry also hurts. One of the criticisms of clean code. Book by Uncle Bob. I guess I don't really read much coding philosophy. read a book on software architecture and it changed my outlook on life. O'Reilly Fundamentals of Software Architecture. Lays out the case that everything is trade-off. If you don't see the trade-off, it's a skill issue. Keep looking. And it's about why not. Under all other circumstances, something to that effect. Actually, that's a common observation that I actually think is wrong. And I've noticed that. I think one of the reasons people are biased to think that way, that like everything is a trade-off, and if you don't, like you should see the trade-off. So that is true. That statement is true about academic topics, but I think it's a survivorship bias with like things that are taught in school. So for example, like basically every concept that's taught in school, that concept is taught in school because there actually is some circumstance under which that model is useful. But in the real world, you're constantly given models that are total, like in some cases, one model is just like total garbage compared to something else. But those models don't survive and they don't get incorporated into a curriculum. And I think that's a blind spot. That was, I think, a significant error I had in like doing consulting, which is that a lot of people will come to you with ideas for business ideas or things or how to do things. And the important thing to recognize is that the idea sometimes, there are certain ideas that you should just not give any substantial consideration to because they're just not good. But the tendency, if you are educated in the system, is like, maybe I should give this idea some consideration. Maybe it's just a different perspective, and all perspectives are valid. But actually, some aren't. I think it is kind of an optimistic approach. I think it does make sense for school concepts because a lot of students are way too quick to say like, when are we going to use this? This is useless. I would have to respond that some trade-offs are much clearer than others. Sometimes though, like you can just boil it down to like a mathematical thing. Like there's some algorithms that are just for all runtime for all executions of the algorithm. One is it uses more time and more space. So there's just no circumstance to use it. Like, I'm not sure if this is I don't know if I can think of a case where this is useful, but like bubble sort or something. If you compare bubble sort to like all other algorithms, is there a case where bubble sort is the optimal algorithm? Actually, I forget the exact algorithm for bubble sort, but I know it's like it's used as an instructional. Clumsy sort might be useful if program space is very restricted, but the list is short. Isn't that also true? Like there's other algorithms that do like in-place sorting and stuff. There's like other mathematical algorithms and stuff for like ways of, for example, ways of approximating the constant pi. Some of them are like slower and less accurate. I like throwing sticks on the floor to calculate pi. That is one way to do it. I'm probably gonna have to draw this out on paper and take a better. I have a feeling that once I finish this is going to be like, this is going to be very short code. So I have two main. Let's see. There's a couple main use cases. One is well, I want to be able to support like resizing the buffer in place. So when the buffer so I can, when I maximize the window, it won't have to reload what's in the center. So we'll do like expansion at both ends, which that operation, for that I'm going to have to do I have to copy it to a new array, I think. Circular linked list. No, I think I can just do it with a multi-dimensional array. This might be one of those things where like my brain doesn't work, and then I write a bunch of code, and then realize that there's. I could probably look it up. There's probably tons of prior art for 3-dimensional circular buffer. Patents mentioned cease and desist incoming. Did I mention patents? Or is 3D circular buffer patented? Oh, prior R? Just triggers? Okay. I hate the games around software patents. Yeah, I mean, software patents have always been a sketchily enforceable legal protection. But I mean, now that we have AI, I wonder if this, like, what recent wave of AI is going to be the final nail in the coffin for software patents, because I think they were kind of not really very enforceable anyway before. I mean, nowadays, copyright is almost not enforceable. Like in practice, copyright is just not enforced. And all these like AI models, like I asked ChatGPT to make me an image with like of some products, and it gave me a bunch of like the official logos and brand names of the thing, and I kind of thought, that's interesting. I expected it to give me like some made up names, but it just like exactly reproduced the actual like proprietary brand names and logos. I mean, years ago, people would think like really hard and careful about publishing something using an official brand name. We have to get like licensing deals and stuff like that. But nowadays, AI can just spit out this stuff everywhere. And it's going to require like lots of explicit work to prevent the model from doing that. So now you can have a case where like in a movie something, inappropriate happens or something, and now the logo, like the AI will generate some logo and use it in the movie in a way that harms their brand. Not to mention all the theft of intellectual property. I've heard that if you read a patent and write something similar to that the patent is unintentionally, you could get in trouble. Yeah, I've heard about that as well. I think they call it patent surfing. So that if they discourage engineers from patent surfing if they're like researching how to do something. How's the game coming along? It's coming pretty good. I have let's see, I can maybe maybe we can just go ahead and run it. I made a decent amount of progress on the framing system. I'm gonna do probably a new release, another release soon, and then probably put the major development on this on pause for a bit. Once I get the next major version out. So here's what it looks like right now. So I can open the help menu and scroll down, and also the user interface has been totally refactored. So it doesn't like flash every time you change between frames. It works with multi-threading. So I can do this, and then it resizes, and the text readjusts to the current width. I guess you can't see this, but yeah. And it's got some optimized stuff in there, so it re-renders the current frame pretty quickly. We've also got resizing of frames. And then the latest feature I added was this here is supposed to be an arrow, but it doesn't render. I guess this Unicode character is not on this computer. So I can select items in the inventory. So I can select this, and then when I press the P key, it'll actually place it. So I can mine my blocks and I can put them in an area. Then I can also close frames, so I can get a nice full screen view. And I also I changed some stuff to massively increase the performance of the map area in the last few days. And that's the current state. How is IP law supposed to work if engineers are supposed to ignore and avoid it? I guess you're just supposed to avoid the ideas and come up with everything on your own. Software patents are very strange. Yeah, they're kind of a strange. Kind of a strange thing. They only really protect. I mean, the whole original thesis behind patents was basically to create like a marketplace, or like kind of to commodify inventions. So you could have like an engineer who invents stuff, and then you could like put that into a document. You could sell the patent, so that way the engineer would not necessarily need to know business. They could keep doing the business of being an engineer. That's kind of like, it's almost the opposite way that it works now. Because I don't think, there's basically zero software engineers that invent a software concept, patent it, and then like sell that and, do the business of creating intellectual property. Well, you have made some good progress since my last time. Yeah, it's honestly, like the game itself is still basically the same as it was like a year ago. Just like no progress there at all. But I decided it makes sense to focus on the user interface part, because that's the stepping stone to everything else, and the fact that it's every frame works in its own thread. So to add like a, so I can close that. So now there's no frames open. Now I can open my inventory. So now if I want to do, if I want to add like recipes or something, I could add a recipe frame or window or whatever. And then it could have whatever kind of UI, and that can be open in combination with the map area and inventory. And here's just a demo. Yeah, that's where it is for now. Sam, is it supposed to work in a clean room? I guess that's a phrase they usually use for like unique inventions, clean room inventions. This would be addictive if it were mobile. Yeah, I have no plans to do mobile development. Honestly, the game itself is actually pretty. It's almost like I basically put like maybe an hour into the kind of the gameplay thought process. But it is for how simple it is. I actually have, easily found myself playing it for quite a bit of time. So this is the terrain. It's like, interesting looking terrain, but chunk initializer thread. So the actual terrain generation. Yeah, so this is just some noise function stuff. The actual terrain generation is right here. This is the entirety of the logic for the terrain generation. It's just like generate some random values, multiply them together, do some biases. The caves are implemented by these three lines. The distribution of ore below ground is just this function. Around ground level, so it's just this. So if I actually put more effort into more sophisticated terrain generation, then I think it can make it a lot more interesting, and also have more block types. Do you have CLOC or another code? Line count util. How big is it now? That's a good question. So find RES modules. Is 22,089. Actually, I think if I look at that again, tail-n plus 20. The first like 30 lines are comments. 31, Okay. So if I remove those code license headers, then it's 15,000. So it's quite a bit, but I've also written it in a pretty like generic way. So like if I want to add a new type of frame, I basically just gonna copy and paste one of the existing ones, like the map area or whatever, and I just tell it to output whatever. And there's quite a bit of logic to the like text justifying and splitting and stuff like that for the help menu. But that can be the presentation of other kinds of text will come in important. And there's also a whole bunch of like message passing code and networking and stuff that's already in there that is not currently it's not multiplayer. But so technically it was multiplayer before it was single player. The first thing I did was implement like a basic network based like a way to compile it so that you can compile a server and a client separately and then play by connecting the client to the server. And it was only eventually I refactored that so it could be compiled either way. So that's in there and not really doing much. But yeah, that's where it is right now. And right now, I'm working on one of the last major features before the next update. So I want to make a three-dimensional circular buffer to store the areas in the map. So that way, as I'm moving around, it won't. Right now, I actually have my current way of doing it. It's quite a bit faster now, but I want to make it even faster. So I use a circular buffer. That way, when you're moving up and down the screen, it's not shifting all those cells. A spherical buffer. Yep. Yeah, I'll have to think about this. Write it down on paper. Probably. It's already pretty late, so I won't make any progress on this tonight, but how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. Yesterday was quite productive. I guess, I don't know, when I feel the most productive is when I'm deleting tons of code, when I have a whole bunch of rat's nest code, and then I kind of like replace it with some better layer, and then I can just delete, and then I keep compiling, and it's not broken. So I was able to do that, delete a bunch of unnecessary code. But yeah, it's all 12:40, so I think I may actually call it a night. Didn't write a lot of code tonight, but I'll take a fresh look at it tomorrow. Maybe once I get started and get some momentum, I'll maybe be able to code a bit more tomorrow night. But anyway, I will leave it there for tonight, and I will see you guys again tomorrow. Talk to you later.